The Chicago Blackhawks are reportedly showing interest in Martin Necas. I'll talk about if they could actually land him and whether they could pursue Patrik Laine.
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Per usual, quick reminder off the top to everyone watching on YouTube, please go and hit that like button for me. Comment down below as well as to your thoughts on forward prospect Sacha Boisvert, who's reportedly had his name thrown around for the Blackhawks at number 18. Also, share your thoughts on whether the Blackhawks should try and acquire Patrik Laine from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube as well. Got a lot of great shows leading up to this year's NHL Draft and free agency. I'll also be finishing up my Blackhawks Summer 2024 top prospects list next Monday. You're not going to want to miss out on any of that good stuff, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. 100% free, won't cost you anything, and really does go a long way for yours truly. And last but certainly not least, got to let you all know today's episode is sponsored by Ultimate Hockey GM. Do you think that you could run the Hawks better than Kyle Davidson? Well, your dream can come true by playing Ultimate Hockey GM, and go and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps in the game store to get 100% free boost to your franchise. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. Another spicy episode here for you all today, and we're starting it off with more rumors surrounding Carolina Hurricanes forward Martin Necas, as it seems very likely that he's going to be traded sometime sooner rather than later. I've heard rumblings that it was actually even supposed to go down by last weekend, and seems likely it's going to be happening before the NHL draft. So something's got to give here with Necas and the Canes over the next couple of weeks. And for the second time, the Chicago Blackhawks have reportedly shown interest in the 25-year-old forward. According to TSN's Pierre LeBrun, the Blackhawks joined the Winnipeg Jets, Montreal Canadiens, Boston Bruins, Calgary Flames, and Detroit Red Wings as the teams expressing interest in pending RFA forward Martin Necas. And also the Hurricanes have supposedly cut their list down to 5 to 7 potential teams that they think have the assets in order to go and acquire Necas. And you have to wonder if the Chicago Blackhawks are one of them. We're hearing they're reportedly interested for the second time here. However, as I discussed when I first brought up the Martin Necas rumors, I still don't think the Blackhawks have the assets in order to get a deal done here, If you think about what the Hurricanes were trying to get in exchange for Necas back at this year's trade deadline, I mean, there were rumblings that Elias Pettersson would have had to be involved in a deal with the Vancouver Canucks. So that kind of tells you all you need to know. The Canes want the house basically for Martin Necas, and they want help right here, right now. And the Blackhawks just don't really possess any of that. I mean, who on their NHL roster is going to help that team get over the hump? I don't really see anyone. Obviously, Connor Bedard is off limits. So is Alex Vlasic, Kevin Korchinski. And this means the Blackhawks would have to get rid of some high-end prospect, a la Frank Nazar and Oliver Moore, Korchinski, Sam Renzel, and I just don't really see general manager Kyle Davidson parting ways with any of those guys and deviating from the path and everything that he's kind of patiently generated here with the Blackhawks, especially when Necas is also a player who's reportedly wanting to get a 5 to 7 year deal at $7 million. He's a really good player, but coming off a little bit of a down regular season, right? Like, there are some concerns there, and the Blackhawks would have to give up a bag. So ultimately, I don't think the Blackhawks are going to be the end suitor for Martin Necas here. However, Blackhawks fans, I do like to see general manager Kyle Davidson testing out the market, kicking the tires, testing the waters, being involved in discussions with players like this, because it's what he should be doing. He should be checking in on the asking price for a young talent like Martin Necas. But again, I ultimately do not expect Necas to wind up with the Blackhawks here this summer. It's just too tough to make a deal work. I don't see the Blackhawks wanting to get rid of any of those high-end prospects that it would assuredly cost in order to acquire a player like Martin Necas in exchange. But I do think it's also worth mentioning that LeBron also wrote in his article that Davidson is not only making calls on Martin Necas, but he's making tons of calls around the league right now, as it's believed that he's looking around for a top 6 forward and potentially another middle 6 forward as well. And this is absolutely music to my ears. This is what I want to hear Kyle Davidson doing here this offseason. And one of the biggest needs for the Blackhawks here this summer is to get Connor Bedard more talent. Philip Kurashev was great, had a big-time season. Taylor Hall is going to be coming back healthy, but you still need to give him more guaranteed help, and don't think it would be a bad idea to go and grab another, middle 6 piece, considering how brutal the Blackhawks offense went this season. And LeBron also said that the Hawks are already targeting some of the pending free agents come July 1st. So really sounds like it's going to be an active offseason here for the Blackhawks, and it absolutely should be. But I don't think it's going to be for any of those bigger names out there on the market. While they're not going to trade for Martin Necas, I don't really see it happening. I don't see them giving Jake Gensel a big free agent deal, but I do think they're going to be adding numerous pieces to their roster at the forward group, a couple of guys, and probably even someone on the right-hand side to stockpile the blue line a little bit more. And as I referenced a couple of days ago, maybe even a goaltender potentially as well. It might not be the most notable offseason for the Blackhawks. I think that's going to be the summer of 2025 when a loaded class is set to hit the market, but it's still going to be very, very important. And they're still going to make a fair amount of ads, I firmly believe, and wouldn't even be surprised to see Kyle Davidson try and acquire a player or two via trade before things get going in the regular season this fall. There are my thoughts, though, on the Blackhawks reportedly showing interest in Martin Necas. I just don't think I see those two sides in particular coming to a deal. However, I love to see general manager Kyle Davidson remaining aggressive. And coming up in just a moment, Blackhawks fans, I'll talk about whether Davidson should pursue a player in the trade market like Patrik Laine, who recently requested a trade out of Columbus. But first, I need to talk to you all about Ultimate Hockey GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NHL GM and managing your own hockey franchise? And do you think that you could even run the Hawks better than GM Kyle Davidson? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is the most awesome game out there, and it's most definitely for you. You can manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the seasons, and lead your franchise to glory. You can also hire the right coaches and staff, trade players or draft picks, navigate through free agency and the draft, all in a challenging and realistic game world. And as a Blackhawks fan, you know there is no offseason. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team's chances, and that's why I think you're going to love this game. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline. You can also play on the go as you want and when you want to. And by the way, Locked On podcast listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. So make sure to go and check it out right now. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get a free boost to your franchise with Ultimate Hockey GM. And to download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or go and look it up on the App Store right now. Ultimate Hockey GM. Start your dynasty today. Segment 2, Pierre LeBrun also mentioned in his article, we're talking about Martin Necas and the teams reportedly showing interest, that the Columbus Blue Jackets do in fact plan to work with Patrik Laine after he recently requested a trade in seek of a fresh start, and seems very likely that he's going to be dealt like Martin Necas as well, and like Jake Gensel, at some point here over the summer, and possibly even in the next couple of weeks before the NHL draft and free agency get going. And for Laine, he's 26 years old now, of course, the second overall overall pick behind Austin Matthews in the 2016 NHL Draft. Got off to a roaring start to his NHL career with Winnipeg, but things have been a little bit bumpy for him on the ice and off of the ice. He still remains in the NHL/NHLPA Player Assistance Program at this point in time after seeking out some help in January. He also had a minor shoulder cleanup procedure, so there's a lot going on with Patrik Laine right now, but it is believed that he'll be back and ready to go by the time the season starts here in the fall. And as far as his contract situation goes, 2 years left at a hefty $8.7 million cap hit, along with a 10-team no-trade list. And given his struggles, over the last few years, really ever since departing Winnipeg, along with the high price tag, some concerns about his consistency, his concerns about locker room problems and, off the ice issues, you have to wonder how many teams actually could be interested in acquiring Patrik Laine here this offseason. However, I actually believe this wouldn't be a terrible idea for the Chicago Blackhawks. And hear me out. I think Patrik Laine, it's absolutely risky. And Kyle Davidson would have to go in there and do his due diligence and figure out what's going on. If Laine's shoulder's okay, how things are going for him in the player assistance program. Is he going to be a good locker room fit? Because the last thing you want is for him to come in here and, potentially deteriorate what you've kind of created with, Nick Foligno being a veteran leader. I know the team hasn't been winning on the ice, but under Luke Richardson's guidance and with some of these veterans added into the room, it does really feel like they have a healthy culture going on and a culture that really does want to get better, and that gives me promise for the future. And the last thing you want is Patrik Laine to come in there and hot dogging it and thinking that he's the top guy. So KD would absolutely have to do his due diligence here. And I'm also aware that Laine had a pretty piss poor season when he was on the ice for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Only 9 points, 6 goals and 3 assists in 18 games this year. He also hasn't played in 70 games since the 2018-19 season. There are a lot of inconsistencies. However, with only 2 years left on that deal, the Blackhawks absolutely can afford the $8.7 million price tag on their books. This feels like the type of potential upside move that I think general manager Kyle Davidson should at least show interest in and possibly be willing to take a gamble on. And the reason for that is there's just undeniable upside there, and the risk isn't the end of the world. And I know some people out there are probably thinking, Jack, how can you say the Blackhawks aren't going to land Martin Necas, aren't going to land Jake Guentzel, aren't going to land a big free agent, but they're going to go and trade for Patrik Laine at $8.7 million? Well, it's because Jake Guentzel's probably getting a big ticket at 5 to 7 years, and he's going to be turning 30 years old in the fall. Martin Necas is going to cost a hefty price, and there's risk involved there too, and the Blackhawks would have to give up assets. Here, the Blackhawks really wouldn't have to give up assets. The Columbus Blue Jackets, everyone and their mother knows Laine wants out of there now. The Blue Jackets know that. They don't really have any leverage. There's a high price tag for Patrik Laine. He hasn't been, performing like he did his first couple of seasons over the last handful of years. He hasn't scored 30 goals since he left the Winnipeg Jets either. There's all the stuff that I already alluded to. And I don't know how many teams can actually afford, even with the cap going up, or want to be able to afford the $8.7 million price tag that comes with Patrik Laine for 2 years. The Chicago Blackhawks absolutely can. And we know Kyle Davidson doesn't want to be dishing out long-term to aging veterans. That's why they're not going to be going after the top-end guys, even like a Sam Reinhart in this year's free agent class. It's not really fitting the bill. It's personally, to me, just 1 year too early for the Blackhawks to make those types of moves. However, even though Laine is risky, it's only 2 years on their books, worst case scenario, and you could potentially even trade him, just cut your losses, sell him for pennies on the dollar if things don't work out at the 2025 or 2026 NHL trade deadline. Like, it wouldn't be the end of the world if this didn't work out. And if it did, it could give Connor Bedard another real goal scoring threat. I know, again, it's been a while since we've seen Laine at his peak goal scoring abilities, but he has one of the better shots in the entire NHL. And again, it'll probably only cost a middle round pick, if that, to go and get Patrik Laine, because the Blue Jackets have no leverage. They know Laine wants to be traded. They know teams can't afford him. He has a 10-team no trade list, which makes things a little bit more difficult. You also have to wonder if the Blackhawks could be on that list. There's a lot going on here. And again, Kyle Davidson would have to do his due diligence, but I think it's absolutely worth kicking the tires on because of the potential upside. Go and jump in the comment section down below right now and let me know if you think I'm talking crazy or if we're seeing eye to eye on this matter. Let me know your thoughts on the Blackhawks potentially pursuing Patrik Laine here this offseason. But that's going to take care of my thoughts on that matter, whether it's in Chicago or not. It's going to be really interesting this offseason to see where players like Patrik Laine, Martin Necas, Jake Gensel, Sam Reinhart wind up. Coming up in just a minute, Blackhawks fans, before I wrap up the show, I do still have to get into Sacha Boisvert's 2024 NHL Draft Profile. But first, I need to talk to you all about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the championship trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and to level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll always find what you're looking for. Plus, with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or else you'll get your money back. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. With all the prices that you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and to bring home that championship trophy. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. Again, that's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only and exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S.-based customers. Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, a quick reminder to everyone out there, smash that like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the Locked On Blackhawks YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. If you're tuning in through an audio platform like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you're constantly downloading all of the latest episodes, rate and review the show as well. That always puts a big smile on my face, especially when I get a 5-star rating. And also make sure to go and check out the new Locked On Sports Today, because Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. So make sure to go and check out Locked On Sports Today right now on YouTube and to subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, segment 3, last but certainly not least on today's show, before I let you all go and enjoy the rest of your weekends, still got to get into yet another 2024 NHL Draft Profile. I only have a handful of these left, as we're now, what is it today, the 14th? Exactly 2 weeks away from the NHL Draft, Blackhawks fans. My, oh my. And another reason to be subscribed to the channel, not only do I still have more of these draft profiles to get into, but on the next episode, I'm going to be talking about the latest rumors surrounding where the Blackhawks could go with the second overall pick. I'm also next week going to be getting into my NHL draft rankings. And then following that, I'll get into my personal full first round mock draft. So again, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of that. You can also turn on the push notifications. That way you get notified when the episode gets uploaded to YouTube each and every day. The next draft profile that I'm getting into here on the show, though, is none other than Sacha Boisvert, good old French boy. I always love the French names. A good old Louis Crevier, Big Lou, Sweet Lou, who came in on my Blackhawks top prospect rankings. Make sure to go and check out those episodes if you haven't done so already. But always love a good French boy. Sacha Boisvert is a 6'2", 180-pound center who turned 18 back in March and recorded 68 points, 36 goals, and 32 assists in 61 USHL games as the alternate captain for the Muskegon Lumberjacks this past season. The production did dip a little bit in the playoffs, though, which was a bit disappointing. Only 3 assists in 8 games for Boisvert in the Clark Cup playoffs, and had 45 points, 17 goals, and 28 assists in 57 games the year prior. So while the goal-scoring leap was certainly prevalent, up from 17 goals in his first year in the USHL to 36 in his draft-eligible year, maybe not the biggest leap in terms of the playmaking, as he only upped his assists by 4 in 4 more games worth of action. However, there's a lot to like about his game, and he's going to a very sound program in North Dakota here in the fall. And as I was listening to the boys from Locked On Senators, one of the best shows of the Locked On NHL network, they were talking about they can't think of the last time that a Frenchman has signed to North Dakota. And one thing I do like in particular, a little preview of the strengths and weaknesses about Sacha Boisvert, is his work ethic and his desire to kind of take a little bit of a unique path to always better his game, going from, the Quebec, not the QMJHL, but playing, midget and junior hockey over in the QMJHL. He comes to the United States to play in the USHL, a little bit of a better league probably than the Q, in my opinion, at least. Don't quote me on that. And then he's going to the college hockey route, going to get better, going to play at North Dakota, a program that not a lot of French Canadians wind up playing for. So I love it. I absolutely love that out of Sacha Boisvert. As far as the rankings go, ranked 21st by Elite Prospects, 22nd by Bob McKenzie, 26th by Craig Button, 32nd by Tony Ferrari is the lowest of any of these scouts or analysts. 28th by McKean's Hockey, 19th by Chris Peters is the only one inside the top 20 for Boisvert, 25th by Daily Faceoff, 21st by Sportsnet, and 30th by Dobber Prospects. So a pretty consensus, top 25 pick in this draft, somewhere between numbers 20 and numbers 25, maybe a little bit later, according to most of these scouts and analysts. So it'll be interesting to see if Sacha winds up falling, or if the Blackhawks could possibly take him at number 18. And the reason why he is one of these guys, who does have a ranking in the 20s that I'm getting to first, is we've heard his name involved with the Chicago Blackhawks a couple of times over the past couple of weeks. This is someone that has reportedly been on their watch list. So will be very interesting to see if Sacha winds up being the pick at number 18. Breaking down his strengths and weaknesses, though, the first thing that jump out to me are the size and the shot. He's got a really big 6'2" frame and already knows how to use it, which I love to see. And while his production wasn't great in the Clark Cup playoffs with only 3 assists and no goals in 8 games, he did rack up 36 penalty minutes. And some people might be like, well, that's probably not very good for your team. And it isn't. But however, I do like to see that Sacha kind of has that edge to him, right? And you don't see a lot of projected first round picks in any draft kind of have that style to their game, but he's super physical. He'll throw hits, be willing to drop the gloves, and will mix it up and step up for his teammates. Already a leader, was an alternate captain for the Muskegon Lumberjacks this past season as well. So he's just got a little different type of makeup, as well as a very good shot. I think that's definitely the best attribute to his offensive game. Can walk into the offensive zone and just rip a shot past an opposing goaltender. That's how he scored a lot of his goals this season. I also like his touch in front of the net. I don't quite think it's at the Liam Greentree level or the Beckett Seneca level, but it's still very solid. And all in all, he shakes out to kind of have that good power forward mold, even though he's 180 pounds, which again, I think is encouraging considering, North Dakota is going to try to beef him up these next couple of years and get him a little bit leaner out there and harder to play against. So he's got a good all-in-all makeup. Offense, though, the shot is what it's all about really for him. A good passer. He knows how to find teammates in transition, but he also has a lot of the intangibles, like I mentioned. A really good hockey IQ, really good work ethic, potential to be a two-way player, great leadership abilities. There are a lot of coaches and scouts that rave about this kid and his desire to get better, and he's already someone who plays a very mature game, even though he is, again, only listed at 180 pounds. So I believe he could be a very versatile player at the next level. As far as the weaknesses go, the first one that really stands out to me is the skating. He doesn't possess the best top-level speed or skating mechanics, so I feel like there's a little bit of a capped runway there potentially, and the acceleration is a little bit tough considering he is a bigger body. So those are things he's absolutely going to have to work on. But even if he does get better, I still don't see him being the most dominant puck carrier at the next level, someone who's not going to be driving play for his own line. He also doesn't have above average playmaking or above average passing skills. Like, he reads defenses pretty well. He's got a good hockey IQ, but he's not making any flashy, ridiculous passes out there. He's reading and finding open teammates. I like to see that, but it's just not anything that separates him from the rest of the pack. And because of that, it's kind of hard to see him having top six upside other than, the shot continuing to develop, or because he's a really good two-way player just in the right role. I've also read that he could be a little bit better at faceoffs and definitely needs to gain weight in order to hit that true power forward defensive ceiling at the NHL level that'll make him a very versatile piece. That is kind of what makes him a first round pick in this year's draft. So as far as my projection for Sacha Boisvert, I just don't know if I see the top six upside there, but I do think he has the ability to be a very effective player all over the ice, and the intangibles will lead to him being drafted in the first round. I probably see him, like the consensus ranking, going somewhere between number 20 and number 25. It's just hard to see a ton of runway there with Boisvert other than the goal scoring abilities, but he's a good kid who works hard. He wants to get better. He's physical. He's mature. He's got good hockey IQ and will impact the game in a lot of ways at the next level. As far as a potential fit for the Blackhawks, I do think someone with his size and shooting ability and someone who can be versatile and make their presence felt in other ways, I do think that's the kind of player the Blackhawks could want at number 18, especially if they end up going with Artem Levshinov with the second overall pick. I just think 18 is a little bit early for Sacha Boisvert. Like 23, 24, 25, I think that would be a very good value pick. And if he somehow fell to number 34 for the Blackhawks, then that's a whole completely different conversation. But at number 18, I just don't really see that much upside. I think it's a little bit too early for him to go, but I would understand it. My reaction would depend on who's still available at that point in time. I think it's a safe pick. There's just limited upside. And if the Blackhawks do draft D, number 2 overall, I think they're going to be looking upside in a forward. But that's what kind of makes it curious to hear that they have shown interest in Sacha Boisvert potentially. So we'll see what winds up happening. Go and jump in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts on Sacha Boisvert, whether you would like to see the Blackhawks pick him at number 18 and what kind of ceiling you think he has at the NHL level. But that's going to wrap up Sacha Boisvert's 2024 NHL Draft Profile, and that's going to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks. As always, thank you all again for joining me on the show. Be sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks for free right now, wherever you may be listening to your podcast, and to go and smash that subscribe button for me if you haven't done so already. Even if you're someone who regularly listens on an audio platform, it won't cost you anything. It really goes a long way for me. Please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. To everyone out there, enjoy the rest of your weekends. You can find me on X at Jack Bushman 2. Check out my Strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey for all the latest Blackhawks news and updates. Until next time, everyone, be safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. I'll see you on the next episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.